call the meeting to order. Karen, do we have attendance?
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Great. Can we get a motion to approve the agenda as it stands?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
You move it this time.
Oh, I so move.
Good.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Thank you. Do we approve the minutes too?
Oh, you've got to go now
To
to
citizens' comments. So
Wait,
Karen,
where are the approval of the minutes? Did we?
It's under
the
consent.
consent agenda is
Oh,
already.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
And we should make a point of letting you know that we updated the minutes to include
Yes.
Jan's letter.
Yes.
Okay,
From
so
last
it's there.
I'm going to say aloud, there was a first draft of the minutes. There's a statement that trustee Barney Newman read into record, and I felt it should be part of the written record as part of an addendum. Or I thought it was one idea, one way to do minutes, and so it has been added. That's the approved version with the statement.
With thanks to Karen for
Yes.
making that addition. So thank you, Karen, for amending that. So this is the time for citizens' comments. Karen, do we have anyone signed up for comments? Great, thank you. Moving on, can we have Bill with financial reports?
Good evening. As of January 31st, 2018, we have received $15,164,993, or 97.2% of our estimated tax receipts for the year. And we are currently under budget by $1.1 million. Anybody have any questions for me? Yes, sir.
Where are the major points of being under budget?
The same ones that keep repeating. We have the employee benefits. We had several people that have retired, had large vacation payouts. We have the software licenses and maintenance, and that's primarily due to the launch of the new website and the expenses for that.
That's over budget.
Yeah, these
All
are
right,
the
I
over budget.
misunderstood you. I thought you said under budget.
Our total under budget is 1.1 million. Yes, we are under
All
budget.
right, but that's what I'm interested in. Where's
Oh.
the under budget part?
I don't have those right here with me. Let's see if we can.
I mean, it's kind of a lot of money, and I'd
Yeah.
like some of it if we could.
Well, isn't some of the under budget the
It's-
taxes that are in that we didn't anticipate?
Yes, we've collected more taxes, and we're gonna overshoot our estimated tax revenue for the year. But if you look on page 16,
Right.
if you go down the list, everything with a parenthesis around it, when you look under the expenditures, those are all the line items that are under budget.
Would you list some of those?
Salaries and wages, employment taxes, custodial services, professional services, utilities, communications budget, materials.
But the capital fund is the largest one.
Yes, the capital fund is under, we've only spent $118,000 of, and we have a balance of $886,000 in the capital fund, and we've only spent $118,000 of that so far this year.
But that's the fund that exists outside of
Outside of the
line
general fund,
Right,
yes.
correct. Right. So, for instance, if you look at the materials budgets under almost $200,000, that's just as of this date.
Right.
It will not be anywhere near under
No,
by the end of
by
the
the end
year.
of the year.
Right.
Then we're under budget for custodial services, right, even with the change?
Correct.
Yes, yeah, it's finally, yeah, because, each month it starts to catch up,
I
when we
I
go
think
over.
for the benefit both of the audience and maybe for ourselves, it helps to give a little bit of commentary, although frankly, some of that can be read here, and because we're published, it can be read out there too. but I think that it helps to give a little bit of a commentary, just to make certain that there isn't anything really under budget or really over budget. That is to say, we have excess expenditures in excess of what we thought. And it's always frustrated me a little bit, and I don't know that I'm going to get much done about it, that we don't annualize our expenditures so that we know what percentage of certain lines will be spent by February, for example.
Right.
So that what appears to be budget really isn't under budget if it is right on target, or if we know that all of the subscription fees come due in a particular month, that we really aren't under budgeted in that. And I'm interested in how we underestimated taxes, what happened there.
Underestimated our,
Revenue.
We use the number that the county gives us, an expectation of what the percentage is going to be, and it's going to be more money for every taxing unit. So we can only go by what they have given us in terms of that number of expectation of the percentage that will be above and they determine what our millage levy will be in term because of Headley. So that's how we do that. And that comes out of the county's assessment office.
Kind of amusing that the person who assesses the taxes gets it wrong.
At least it's wrong to the good.
But it could just as easily be wrong to the bad.
And when we've expected it to be less, we've always budgeted cautiously below it.
Yes, that I understand.
You know that. The other thing I'll tell you is the Finance Committee met, and Victoria could give you the good news if she wants to.
Sure. So this is going to roll over a little bit into some of the later agenda items, but in the last Finance Committee meeting, and Jim made some of the exact same comments that you're making now about the difficulty of seeing what our expenditures are budgeted on a 1/12 basis, as opposed to at this point in time, we would expect to have spent more or spent less rather than percent the number of months that have elapsed in the year, so that we have more of a where we are at this moment in time compared to where we expected to be at this moment in time. And the upshot from that meeting was that we would look at doing things so that trustees could see more. We should be at 70% when we're 30% of the way through the year in this line item.
And we'll start it in July, in the next budget cycle.
Good. I think that would be helpful and appropriate. And I'm glad that Jim and I agree on at least that one.
I was pleased about that too.
Great. Do we have any additional questions for Bill?
No, thank you.
Great.
Right, thank you.
Bill. Thanks, Gail. Committee reports. Let's see. So the executive committee met briefly last month, and we had a discussion on preparing for the retreat in May and what needs to be done to prepare. We're working with another consultant from Bridgeport Consulting, Fran Alexander. She's well known in the community, lots of experience. People have had a really good, we've heard some really good things about her. So she's preparing an agenda. And then another thing that came up was trying to see what kind of work that we can do as trustees to prepare before the retreat, if we can revisit the presentation that Richard Murphy had presented last year, come up with questions that we can use to format the day, and also see if we're comfortable with what we did last year, which was kind of a discussion between ourselves and with staff, and then we broke out into small groups at the end. So I think each one of us, if we can kind of think about what our expectations are individually and as a group, that would really help Fran kind of frame the day.
You'll have it.
Yes, and we'll also have the EPIC MRA results too to help us frame the discussion. That was the gist of our meeting.
And for the audience, that date is May 23rd in the afternoon at 3:30, likely into the early evening. and it's a public meeting at the West Side Room at the Westgate Branch.
So last year, we had it beginning in the day, and I think the motivation behind having it start later in the day this year is so that we can capture folks who could come in after work.
Great.
And encourage more participation.
Are you going to make curry?
I guess.
It's not necessary.
Because I know you
can.
can make it for 50 people.
Or
If
freeze
we can
built
get 50 people to come to our retreat, I call that a win in it itself. So that was. I think there's a lot of excitement around our retreat this year. I feel like we've come a long way since last year, and kind of just thinking about our future and our future work. So it's time to get to it. Great. Budget and Finance Committee. Is there anything additional that you want to add, Victoria?
Just a little bit. We've met once since our last meeting, and I think I already discussed what we talked about in terms of financial reporting, but we did also briefly touch on the Fifth Avenue Press. Josie, I wonder if you want to summarize what we said there.
Sure. The board had asked the Finance Committee to talk about the Fifth Avenue Press and that model that the library is using to make available local history in a digital format through the public library. And so we did that, and I consulted with the attorney with Dykema, Mark Malvin, who has helped us with our digital licensing agreement and other agreements that involve digitally licensing material for a number of years. Mark said that our use of that license for Fifth Avenue Press as it's being done now is exactly how it was intended. The library has not put, we are continuing to put mission over money. We are not a publisher. Nothing about how we're doing this makes us a publisher. We are simply in kind providing services and then in return receiving a perpetual license to a digital product that can be circulated any number of times over that period of time. And he said that he appreciated the library's approach to this based on the licensing. He said the library does not have the resources to enter into the publishing world. It's not a money maker place right now. Mm-hmm. It's a money taker. And he did not feel that anything needed to change about how we were doing this. And if at anything at all, he felt if we wanted to ask from the authors, that for some sort of agreement to help promote their book within 18 months of the library's finalizing the digital process. But other than that, he said he felt like what we were doing was appropriate for a governmental unit that's also a 501c3. So, and we're not competing with local interests who are publishers, which was another point he made. So.
I'm sorry, which attorney is this?
Mark Malvin from Dykema. We've used him over a number of years for our digital licensing.
Just for the record, I am not altogether certain that hearing this secondhand, I can't really speak fully to it, but as you know, I don't necessarily agree with some of that.
And I think, Ed, I anticipated that. And so at a board meeting when we know we're going to have the full board, including Jim, who asked some of the same questions you did, and Jamie, who doesn't ask those questions in the same way, Mark can come and speak to the board directly.
I hope he speaks with the board rather than to it. It's a difference.
I won't determine that. I'll leave that to the board president.
As acting board president, we can add this to the agenda for the next board meeting. So we can put that under consideration.
I will not be at the next board meeting, I should point out.
We will also need to check availability with Mark and Dykema too. So this is something we can coordinate and have Josie coordinate. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm glad we have excellent counsel. Great. Director's report.
Thank you. It's going to be on the screen here very shortly. I'm going to do this. I actually have a screen.
Oh, goodness.
Did that. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to show in the director's report was that the Westgate branch was featured in CAM, which is the Construction Management Association magazine that goes out nationally. And it's a great article, and you should have received it in your packet about the Westgate's design, its use, and the process around the architecture, and the fact that it was a renovation in a shopping center. So I'm very happy about that. This one is about the website, and it shows you the dip, which is when we were down to bring up a new website. But what's interesting about this is that the page views, we had the spike up when it was brand new, but you can see where it's holding steady, and it's a new line. It's well above our old page view line. So we have the same patrons looking at this website more, and we're very happy about this. So it's sustaining. The website is called a responsive website. What that means is that no matter what device you choose to use to look at the website, you get it on that device in a format that fits that device, and it's legible, and you can see it, and you can work through it in a good way. This is not easy to do. It's a goal to achieve that many websites don't make, and our website is being acknowledged nationally for accomplishing that. This group of people are some of the people who, in the technology world, who are well known for pressing for these responsive websites. When it came out, within days, they had emailed and asked if I would be on a podcast with Peter Morville, who was our information architect for this website, to talk about it. And that podcast is due to launch on March 5th. So we're happy about that. Projects and initiatives underway. We offer Blind Date with a Book starting February 1st, and the MLive did a great article about it. For children, the book is called A Surprise. So we do it for them, but a little bit different label, and they're having fun with that too. Blind Date with a Book is something libraries are doing all over the country and in Canada a lot. We've been doing this a long time, and so we wrap up books. We put hints about what that book is written on it and the brown paper that it's wrapped in, put it out on a shelf, and people check it out and take it home and unwrap it and find out if this is a good date or not. So we're happy about that. And this is Elizabeth Pierce, who is a library tech with us now, who has recently graduated from library school, who's in charge of this program. Happy about it. Lynn is on tonight's agenda to talk to you about facilities management, primarily the work that's being done on the downtown library, not solely, but part of that, the 3.3 in the strategic plan. And also, the EPIC MRA fieldwork is complete, and their report will be coming to you in March. So that's also. This is a delight. This is a new partnership with the Ann Arbor News featuring our archive and select Ann Arbor Stories podcast. And in this is a comment from the great niece of Marcella Scott, who was the 1936 Ann Arbor City Marbles champion. And she saw her great uncle's story and shared it with her family and then wrote this great little note about it. He traveled from Ann Arbor to Wisconsin to compete in the regionals, and he didn't win. A boy from Chicago did. And so, but he, in 1936, Marcellus went to Wisconsin to play marbles. And this is a photograph of him in front of the old doors at the Ann Arbor News. And so if you recognize those doors, that's what those are. So it's great. And then these are patron photos showing the diversity of our collections and events. Both photos were posted to Twitter. One is the Yarn Swift and Ball Winder, and another is an 8-year-old artist attending a watercolor workshop. Then more patron photos, just pretty much Westgate love. Someone didn't know about it, found out about it, and now that's the only place they'll go for their meetings and coffee. So, and then the other one are just then the books that someone's taken out to snuggle up on a cold week in Michigan. And I think that person called themselves a millennial curmudgeon, which I think is really interesting. I mean, I know what a millennial is, and I know what a curmudgeon is, but I just haven't put it together. So I want to meet this person. This one is more patron photos, and we average about 20 a month. I think you men, Rich, we get about 20 photos a month from patrons about what they love. And this one's a sewing lab where someone has come to the library to learn to sew. And the other one is just cute kids at Branches, playing on the floor, checking out books at Westgate. And so they send us the photos. We're not making these. And this last one is a summary of public and staff comments. So it's not all pictures. Some of it's words. Most of it's kind. That people talking about the Martin Luther King Day event that we had here was so popular that even the spillover room, which is actually the secret lab, was full. And it was really great fun. Then someone else said, totally loved that AADL's downtown library has a secret lab, a name way more fun and less alienating than Hackerspace or Makerspace. And we were happy to hear that. Someone said, I'm truly in love with the AADL and have been for the past 8 years. So it's clearly someone who's moved here in the recent past. In emails, we had kind words. Facebook, 5-star reviews. This library is awesome. Workshops, meetings, musical instruments, tools. You guys rock. Kudos from a patron who competed in one of our monthly video game tournaments. I really appreciate that fun events like that can happen here. I can't wait for the next one. And the last slide. A few more pictures to close out. Somebody showed the packed house for the macarons 101 cooking workshop. And then a young reader at Mallets. I mean, I love this one. He's totally relaxed down there on the floor with his book. He's into it. And I recognize the book, so I'm so happy about that. And the last one, the very beginning of a beautiful sweater someone began making in the secret lab. So that's my director's report. I also just want to point out, you have in front of you 2 pages of upcoming events. Included in those on March 8th is a panel discussion here in this room called Civic Life in Ann Arbor, City of Ann Arbor 2018 Sustainable Ann Arbor Forum. It's sponsored by the city, hosted by the library, and Lynn will be on that panel along with Neil Hajra, President and CEO of the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation, Ashley Blake, Community Building Team Lead at Avalon Housing, and Patrick Campion, Program Director for WEMU. So that should be very interesting, along with a number of other events that we've highlighted for you in a handout.
I'm sorry, Josie, you said we have 2 pages in
Should
front of
be,
us?
should be in the ephemera.
Oh, so it's in the attachment,
Yeah,
but it's
I
not.
think that's right.
Okay.
But I have it in print, so I could not
Okay.
forget to talk about it.
That's right.
That's why I have it, so, yeah.
Can we look at the picture again from when the macaron?
There it is.
workshop? So that's where we used to meet. That's the 4th floor.
That's
of the
correct.
meeting room,
Now
sorry.
we took out, if we go up there and look, you'll see all of that fixed furniture is gone. And so now that room it can sit about 250 people if you do it that way. Yes.
I think that's significant because I think last year when we discussed not only just broadcasting our meetings, but also putting in the investment to change that room, it's hard to actually visualize it actually in use. So it's nice to see that we can put 250 people. That's a lot of people up there.
You can. I think that's the number on the wall is 250 people. Yes.
That's a lot of people learning about macarons. That's great.
And they're all there. He is fantastic. If you haven't, Keegan Rogers does a great job.
Okay.
He talks about all types of food and cooking.
Can we invite him to the board retreat to do dessert? Like, we'll give everyone a course. Lynn's going to make the curry. I'll do a salad.
What kind of retreat is this?
Potluck retreat.
Yes, I'm sorry. Did you have a comment, please?
I didn't know. I questioned. Is there still a marbles contest in Ann Arbor? Do we know?
There is not.
There's a Lego contest.
Did you want to have
Does
one?
anybody? But yes. Why not?
Because I still have my marbles from my childhood. Do you have yours?
I don't have anything from.
I
including
have
memories
marbles I
all
can
on.
share with you, Ed.
I just think I looked at that little kid. And are there there must be national marbles contests.
Rich, yes, there is. Yes, there is. This was apparently sponsored by the Ann Arbor News. So when he won, they paid for his trip to Wisconsin. They went with him, and even though he lost, he is reported in the archive. You can read it. He had a blast.
Well, to me, that he went was a much bigger piece of news than he either lost or won.
Correct. I agree with you.
And that I thought, well, let's look into it.
We'll do that.
We might see who we can send.
We've helped send, I'll tell you one thing the library has done. The library helps send spelling bee winners. We've been at the space where people do the spelling bee, and homeschool parents often use the library for their practices and we help. The spelling bee contestant has to have a sponsor, a sponsor. Homeschool children don't. So the library has been their sponsor. And we had a young girl go pretty far. I'm looking at you, Shalania. We had a young girl go pretty far in this a few years ago. She did not win nationally, but she went past the state. I think she went regional.
And
so,
the other children are sponsored by the public schools.
or private schools, wherever they attend.
Or it's
Right.
by an institution, and homeschoolers have to seek an institution.
And we have agreed to be that
We
institution.
have. Do the funds that we spend come out of our tax dollars
We don't
or
give
out
them-
of contributor dollars?
We don't give them money. It's just
They pay
it's just
everything.
to sign it's just to sign the form for them to be able to say that an institution supports their going there, and they accept the public library as that institution. We do not fund their trip. Their parents do that.
What if they can't? Well, homeschoolers are not likely to be in that position.
I don't know that that has not come up. That's not what they've asked of us. They just needed an institution that was real and had standing in the community to sign off on them competing as a homeschooler in the national spelling bee.
And when does it happen during the year?
It's a National Geographic.
Yeah.
And we just took care of that in January. The first round, and then after the state qualifying, it just happened.
Right.
There are other types of contests like that. For example, National History Day, but those are all sponsored through the Historical Society of Michigan. We don't get involved in that.
We as the
Or
library.
do we with homeschoolers who go there?
If they approach us.
If they approach us, but we don't know whether they have or not.
Right. Right.
And there are no other types of national
Not
contests
not
that the
that we
homeschoolers.
not that we have been asked to support this way. No.
Well, kudos to the staff
Yeah.
for supporting the students to do this.
Well, and that just lets me talk about, the library does the writing, It's All Right writing contest for teens, and then the younger children. We have a separate writing contest, and that's active now. I'm not mistaken. We're taking submissions. That's international. We always get submissions from somewhere else in the world, and occasionally a child from another country will win. And we had a person from Pakistan win, and they said that there was no way they could ever do this in their own country, and how much they appreciated that they were able to.
And do we publicize the results?
Yes, we
do.
do.
Press
There's
releases?
a big party, big press releases. Those stories are published. They're available for circulation. So yes, we do.
My son is actually trying to
Oh, good.
submit something. He's trying to sell fewer pickles
We have a
this summer.
big party. Did the Pakistani child,
No, that child was not able to be here. No.
because couldn't afford to, or because not able to?
Wasn't free to come.
I'll
Wasn't,
tell you right now that if we ever have a situation again of an international child or somebody else in the United States that can't get here, other than being politically restrained. I think that, I mean, we certainly have the contributed funds adequate to bring them here, if that were appropriate.
Okay.
And I'd certainly like to know about it, because if we don't have enough funds, they can be found. Can't they, boys and girls? Say yes.
This is our,
We
what
can
is it, our
always look.
22nd or 23rd year to do this? 22 or 23? Don't look it up. It's 22 or 23, I know. So, I mean, it's something we've done for a long, long time, and we're very happy to continue to do it. So
There's a cash prize.
there is cash prizes. That's what,
Did the Pakistani child get the prize?
I can't remember how we did that.
How long ago was that?
Oh, Ed, I can't tell you that. Several years ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Enough.
It was sent. Whether they got it or not, we
Okay.
can't know. It was sent.
I love this.
Yep.
I love it. I think it's
Yes,
great
yes,
getting our young
yes.
people to write,
Yep.
read and write.
Yep.
Thank you. Do we have any additional questions for Josie?
That is a great story. That's a great story.
Oh, did we have the Ann Arbor Reads? Was that?
Oh, that was great. That was
Couple weeks
at,
ago.
that was at RAC. And the author and 2 faculty members from the university were speaking in a conversation. Over 800 people attended.
Oh my gosh.
The faculty member from the unit on campus that had invited the author did a marvelous job opening the conversation and acknowledging Washtenaw Reed and how across the county people were reading the book through the support of public libraries and literacy groups in schools. And it was lovely. And at the end, during questions, it was very rewarding to all the people in the room who were part of Washtenaw Reads, because a high school student from Chelsea asked a question and said, "We read this as part of our classwork at Chelsea." And here is my question. It was great. I don't remember the question, but she did she asked her question. So there were people there that the age of a high school student to the very elderly who had read this book and wanted to come and hear the young woman talk about it. Another person who stood in line for a question was someone who had recently lived in South Africa. And she said that when the book came out a couple years ago, because this is not a brand new release, she had a book group in South Africa who talked about this book and how excited she was to come and hear the author, even if now she's not in South Africa, but she was letting all her book group friends in South Africa know that she was there. And then she had her question. So it was well attended. It was extremely interesting. It was one of the best presentations of those we've had, because the conversation between the scholars and the writer was fascinating. So, and we were very happy by the attendance. It was cold. That was a cold, windy, bitter night. I asked him, how many years we have walked across this campus to events at night for the library and been so cold. And so we are just keeping on. So,
That was a fantastic book, though.
yes.
That brought me to tears. I
Yes.
love that one.
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have any additional questions for Josie? Great. Well, thank you, Josie.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to old business with our strategic plan goal 3.3. Let's welcome Len. Thank you,
Good
Len.
evening. So I'm here to tell you everything we've done in the building this year, which would kind of tie into our reimagining the downtown building for what it is. Josie had already mentioned, I guess, our biggest project this year, which was the 4th floor meeting room. We did remove all the fixed furniture, record the electrical and the data in the floor, so we could rearrange that room in several different areas or different ways. Carpet, lighting was replaced there, so there's dimmable LED fixtures in there. That's about that for that room. Right now we're working in the atrium on the 4th floor. Same thing, removing all the wallpaper, painting it, doing carpet up there. We've done carpet in the basement this year, an AV package in this room that we can use for this meeting. We've replaced about 21,000 square feet of carpet in the building this year. And I can't tell you how many meeting rooms or study rooms or offices we've painted, but maybe, I don't know, 15 or so, and continuing on. The security office has moved from the first floor staff side to the second floor public side. Part of that project, we're also moving the public computers and replacing all those with new computers and new tables. Several spots of the roof have been patched this year. We also replaced all the flashing where the second floor and the third floor roof meet each other. We've reworked the number 2 boiler this year and rebuilt the steam boiler because it was such a cold winter. We usually don't run the steam boiler all that much, but this year, just the cold temps, we were forced to, and of course it failed a few times, so we reworked a bunch of that. We replaced all the electronic door locks, including the prox guard access to the exterior doors downtown. And just last week, we had a 30,000 kilowatt generator put out back to keep up our network in case we lose power downtown. Those are the big projects. That's not maintenance and repairs. There's quite a few projects that we do that things that break and we're replacing, but these are some of the big items we've done downtown this year. And we hope to do quite a few more, whether it be carpet or painting or just kind of updating finishes before the year runs out.
Is the generator big enough to run the whole building?
No, it'll run the network and a cooling unit in the server room.
Okay.
It's about not having to close the branches when there's no
How do we turn on the lights?
power. Well, the downtown library would close, but the branches would.
Oh, all right, I'm sorry. The branches, all right.
I would assume to run the downtown building, it'd probably be around a 300 kilowatt generator. So we have enough to keep, like I said, keep the branches open, keep emergency lighting on here, and we can.
And you did that for $30,000?
The generator itself was $14,000 plus install.
I'd get one of those in my house.
You can get one for a lot less. for
Yeah,
your
you could
house.
get one for a lot less nowadays, yeah.
The bathroom upgrade from last year, I know that was a last year project, but it didn't go off perfectly. There were a couple of issues after it happened, correct? There were some backups. Has that smoothed out?
It has.
How are we on capacity of the bathrooms?
You know, I mean, if you have a large program or if it's a home football game, something like that, you know, we're pushed to the max.
Yeah.
But the big issue we ran into was the city's fiber project. We bored through the sewer line.
Yeah.
Since that's been repaired, we've been okay.
Great.
Shortly after the restrooms reopened, we did find a few things that were more, you know, the way the piping runs out of the building around structural beams. We looked at a few areas there. So I think we backed up twice the first 2 weeks that we reopened, and we've been able to improve that. So
Great.
It's been better. All in all, that the bathroom project went well. It is about the capacity load. So
Right.
if we have a big program, or if there's 2,000-3,000 people in the building, it is a strain on the system.
Yeah. Okay.
So if we fill that fourth floor meeting room with 250 people, there's one bathroom on that floor,
Correct.
right? One public bathroom.
For lady, that's right, two toilets in each one.
A little bit different though. So the fourth floor, that is gravity to. Let's talk about the sewer crocks. That is
Okay.
gravity down to the sewer crocks.
Okay.
Whereas the first floor restrooms actually discharge gravity out of the building.
So it's going
Right.
laterally
It's the
versus
same
different
line,
systems.
but where the first floor restrooms leave the building, the injection crocks come in on that same line.
Okay.
But the fourth floor restrooms actually go 8 feet, 10 feet below that, and it would be able to be held. So
Okay.
it's
So it's more of a problem or it's less of a problem?
depends on the day.
Okay.
I mean, I would say if there was not an event in the lobby,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be an issue. But if you have a large event and the fourth floor, then you have both of them working at the same time, and
Okay.
it would probably back up.
When we plan events, do we have to think about that?
Sure. Sure. I mean, it's like, you wouldn't, for instance, you wouldn't have the comic convention
Right.
or Tiny Expo
Yeah.
and have what you expected to have 250, 270 people on the fourth floor. I mean, we would have to think about that.
Right. Okay.
And we would. and are down here.
But it's not just a bathrooms issue, it's many issues. It's about traffic flow and it's about people and capacities.
But it's mostly about the
Right.
bathrooms.
Okay, mostly, okay.
Would we also not schedule an event for art fair or another day when we just have a lot of traffic? Would it actually prevent us from scheduling events when we have the most traffic because we don't want to bring yet more people through the door?
The thing about art fair is that we know we're the cleanest, coolest public bathroom in town.
Yeah.
And so we are going to have that traffic no matter what we do. And we are careful around programming around during art fair because of,
Our plumbing.
yes. Because, you know, it's where you're going to bring your children because it's clean, it's private, and it's cool in here, so.
Any questions?
Len, I had two other questions. So you mentioned the steam boiler?
Yes.
And that we rarely use it, but would occasionally use it in weather.
Steam boiler puts, it's humidity. It brings up the humidity in the building. So there's 3 boilers that actually heat the building, and then the steam boiler on the cold days where the humidity's super low.
It makes it more comfortable.
Yes.
Is
Just like,
that part of the original building, or was it added later?
the tag on that's 1989, so it would have been in the second renovation,
Second.
third renovation, sorry. Yeah, second.
Okay.
So.
And I had one more question, which is actually not about the downtown branch, but it was about power outages and our other branches.
Yes.
I know that there are problems in Ann Arbor and the DTE is doing some projects on the northeast side, for
Right.
example, which I think of as the spot where we lose power most often, but we've
Yep.
lost power in our other branches a couple times. That's always because the power grid has gone down in Ann Arbor. Are there things we could or should do?
Something we've
response.
worked on for a long time, or since I've been here, is looking at opportunities to put backup power at all the branches. I mean, cost is always a factor, but we've looked at what we could do.
Have we done those things or just talked about them?
We've spent about 18 months working on Mallett's Creek, and we were told by DTE that the line coming off of Homestead Commons wasn't big enough to supply a backup generator with natural gas. Since then, we've learned through someone with distribution that we could come off the line that's on Eisenhower, that it's a 4-inch main, and it is possible. But we've had those conversations of installing backup power at the branches.
And Mallett's is where the system, AADL, loses power the most often.
Oh,
It's
interesting.
Mallett's.
Mallett's.
So we looked at Mallett's first, and then we're told we couldn't. And so we proceeded downtown to make sure that the network stayed up. And in the meantime, we're told perhaps we could come off this other gas line.
Did DTE come back and say, we decided we gave you bad information in the first place?
No, it's just a different line.
What had happened was we had 2 valves leaking at Pittsfield on the meter, and just through the process of conversation, it came up, and we got in touch with the right person. So I was on site the day we replaced the meters, had the conversation with them, asked some questions of why we couldn't do it, had the right person, that he was in distribution, and he pulled up the map and was kind enough to show us where our electric came in, all the meters around us, and how we could solve the problem.
Did we cancel the library card of the person that gave you the wrong information?
I'm going to guess he's not a user.
Or a resident even, right?
So I had a quick question, Len. The downtown branch we're a warming center, right, in severe cold?
No.
No?
No,
Is that not right?
we are not.
Oh.
We are not technically a warming center because were we would have been open on Friday, February.
wondered about
Yes.
that.
So
Okay.
no, we are not. No. We are here. Anyone is welcome. And when it's bad weather and we're open, you can be here. And we're not going to ask you to not be here.
Right.
And in the cold weather we had people sitting on the floor and around walls in this building, and we worked with that.
Okay.
But we are not technically a warming center.
Is that a county or county designation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions for Len on 3.3? Or no? Great. Thank you,
Well,
Len.
thank you guys so much.
That's helpful, thank you.
Great. Moving on to 4.3 on our new web presence update. with Eli.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay, so things are going pretty well. We still have a number of small things that we're still working on. The additional accounts is still not working, so that's one thing that we're working on. We are continuing to help patrons who have multiple accounts be able to navigate those. We are getting close to getting all the old bills aged and applied on the system, but all the other stuff has been working pretty well. One thing that's still remaining is that we just started last week making robotic phone calls for people who don't have email when their holds are ready for pickup. Many of those users are actually avid users of the website and have been coming in and getting their things. So, but we just started making the robot phone calls last week. About 100 of them have gone out so far.
Okay.
And so far, so good with that.
And that represents what?
4% of library patrons don't have an email address.
Listed
So,
with us.
Yeah, with that have not provided us with an email address. So 96% of patrons are getting the email notification.
That's really high.
That replaces the postal mail notices.
Okay.
Part of the reason we made this change with Evergreen is because we can no longer really depend on a mailed notice arriving at someone's home in Ann Arbor within a week from when we mail it.
Okay.
So they were arriving after people's holds had already expired. Other things that we have, the event stuff is all working pretty well. There is one thing where calendar feeds of events aren't yet working again, and the calendar feeds of due dates, we're getting a couple questions about that. We are just about to deploy site search and local history search, which has been something we've started to get questions about. And that's coming probably this week. And that's about it. Yeah.
So Eli, how will that work? Will it be, I mean, currently you say search collection, you can search old news instead?
Basically, where the catalog drop-down is, you'll be able to choose other collections there. And when you arrive at landing pages, like the old news landing page, it'll default to searching the old news collection, that kind of thing. Any questions?
How's the team doing?
Recovering.
They have cookies
Yes.
today.
Yes, we have many cookies today. Had some vacations here and there to catch up a little bit, so doing pretty good for the most part. The email volume is way down and much more sort of routine and much less sort of, still we're getting a lot of questions about Melcat, which is to be expected.
Right.
And we have just this week started the process. We've down to our last few Melcat transactions that need to be resolved. So we're starting the process to finally close out the old system on Melcat and start joining on the new one. And again, they just tell us that it's a 3 to 4 month process.
Okay. Great.
Any questions? Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks, Eli. Moving on, for under new business, let's see, I'd like a motion to approve the board retreat date for May 23rd, 2018.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Citizens' comments. Do we have any?
Lynn,
Oh, I'm
can I-
sorry.
Can I
Yes.
raise up one more issue of new business?
Oh, yes, please.
Door counts. In our packet,
Yes.
I'm not seeing numbers on door counts.
You want to explain that?
So we had for years beam break door counters, okay, which is an infrared beam, and they break through the beam, and then you divide the number by 2. We've gotten to the point where our traffic was so high that was stopping to be a realistic measurement of the because people were coming in at the same time. And if the beam gets broken once, but it's 4 people walking in and out at the same time, you only get 1 count for that. So we experimented with a new product, and that was in August, and it was an utter disaster. It was a recently out of Kickstarter product that was relatively well reviewed and totally inadequate for our needs. So after a couple months looking at that data, we saw it was very clear that was not capturing the full numbers in and out. And we actually had to do a audit in looking at, we watched the security camera footage and counted the number of people actually in and out and compared it to the number to demonstrate for sure that the door counters were not counting. And basically they can't handle our volume. So we found a more established company. The door counters have arrived. The issue is, the nice thing about the system that we had is that it was wireless and it didn't require us to run a lot of new infrastructure. Well, that didn't pan out. So we are now in the process of running the new cable to be able to install door counters that are a much more sort of enterprise level product. What we will do after we get the new ones in, is when it comes time for next year's state aid report, we will make estimates based on the door count, based on our actual numbers from this year and the months that we have good data, and we'll make estimates for the months that we have missing data. But we got to the point where the number was so inaccurate, it was better not to report it at all. So, and it's all during this current fiscal year. So when we get to state aid reports just under a year from now, we will make estimates based on, and we'll estimate conservatively, estimates to get into the state aid.
Curious, what the cost of the cabling that we were concerned about?
Well, the issue is, it's several $1,000s, but the bigger issue is there are some places that it is extremely difficult to get cabling. For example, right above the patron entrance at Traverwood, right above the elevator door at Traverwood, the bottom of the stairs at Traverwood. These are not, and these things are ceiling mounted. So when we have a drop ceiling, it's easy, but almost none of our buildings have drop ceilings right inside the door. Westgate, super easy. That's not a big deal at all. Pittsfield, a little trickier. Traverwood, super tricky. So it's mostly a matter of, we were trying to avoid having something hanging from the ceiling. But unfortunately, the technology, in order to capture the number coming through the doors, we're going to have something that is mounted on a pole from the ceiling above the doors. Did that answer your question, Ed?
So where are these used? What other institutions?
This is a library industry product.
It
now,
is, okay.
This one, where the other one was a little bit more oriented toward cafes and things like that.
Okay.
So, we'd done a test with it, and the nice thing about the other companies, their API was pretty good, so we could get the data out of it. But this one will have its own server that lives in the building, and we'll be able to harvest the data out of that.
Is the Traver installation ugly, or does it interfere with something, or?
It's mostly that it has to be a particular height. Len, you want to jump in on this at all?
Yes, it needs to be 7.5 feet, 10 feet high, 2.5 feet to 3.5 feet inside the building. So a lot of it was field trips going around to each location saying, I want one hole right there, versus wire mold or cabling that we could see, like Eli alluded to. Pittsfield, we came up with a solution. Westgate, simple. The front doors here, simple. Mounts Creek, they actually made us a bracket for. So it's about getting the cable to the right location. So I've had 3 field trips to branches over the last few weeks to pinpoint all those locations.
All right.
So it sounds like it's unfortunate that we don't have the data for these 6 months or so, but it's not fatal in any way, and you don't expect any impact from having to estimate to the state.
No.
Okay. Great.
Right.
Great
Any
question,
questions about
thank
that?
you.
We have numbers from events anyways. I mean,
Right.
do we not? So
Right.
when
We have
programs,
numbers for
waste,
events.
we have waste.
Okay. So at least there's some numbers. Good. Great.
Awesome.
Okay, Karen, do we have any citizens' comments?
Anyone interested?
No? Well, great. Great meeting. I guess with that, we're adjourned.
There you go.
Thank you.
1 hour. I love your meetings, Lynn.
Oh, thanks. I feel like I should have copies of recipes.